breaking tonight. An investigation says Spokane Valley Representative Matt Shea engaged in domestic terrorism. We looked into his past and what this now means for the Republican.
Lots more wet weather headed across the inland northwest. Some places will see snow, others rain. I'll have a look at your Friday forecast and the weekend, all coming up.
A couple inches of snow caused at least 26 crashes today. Tonight, how to safely check your car after a crash.
Breaking news tonight, Spokane Valley Representative Matt Shea has been at the center of a lot of controversy, even making national headlines.
Yeah, tonight we're getting the first look at an independent investigation that now accuses Shea of domestic terrorism. Our political reporter Casey Decker joins us now live in studio. And Casey, there's already been some big developments regarding Shea's future just in the last hour or so.
Yeah, guys, well, the biggest development is certainly that Matt Shea has been removed from the House Republican caucus. He will no longer be able to meet with the party. His office will be moved away from the party, and he will not be able to use Republican House staff. The second big development is that the report that you just mentioned has been forwarded to the FBI and to the U.S. Attorney's Office. And finally, we spoke with Sheriff Ozzie Knezevich, who says that he believes Matt Shea should be prosecuted for domestic terrorism as well as treason. Now, obviously, this report, a pretty big deal, so let's go into what some of the findings of that report are. After months of work by independent investigators, mostly former law enforcement, here were some of the key findings. First, they found his trip to Bunkerville, Nevada was to support armed militia members in their standoff with the government there, not fact-finding as he had claimed. Second, that he played a key role in organizing another standoff in Priest River. Third, that he helped plan in advance the Malheur standoff. Now, that one eventually resulted in a person's death, and the report says Shea authored and circulated a military-style operations plan for it. It also says Shea met with law enforcement, telling them he was a state rep, but omitting his ties to the militia in order to gain intelligence he could use to help that militia. Other findings include that Shea used intimidation tactics as against a political opponent and has condoned violence and intimidation against political opponents. Also, that he helped youth to fight a holy war, encouraging one in his writing. Now, through his lawyer today, Shea released a statement. It reads in part, quote, "As the subject of this investigation, I have been denied any opportunity to review and respond to its results, which are still unknown to me. Due process is the right of every citizen and should be afforded to all members of the House regardless of their views or party affiliation." Now, we should be clear. While it's true no one got an advance copy of the report, including Shea, he was given numerous opportunities to speak with investigators. They say he declined all of them. Okay, so about those consequences I spoke of just a moment ago. House Republican leader J.T. Wilcox said in a statement, quote, "House Republican leadership has suspended Representative Matt Shea from the caucus and removed him from his ranking position on the House Environment and Energy Committee. He will also be removed from his House committees." Representative Shea was given an opportunity to communicate with investigators, and he chose not to. Now, as we mentioned, Spokane County Sheriff Ozzie Knezevich had some harsh words for Shea as well. Knezevich has been a longtime critic of him. I spoke with the sheriff on the phone just moments ago.
Matt Shea needs to be held accountable, and Matt Shea needs to be prosecuted. This man's actions, if not treason, they bordered on treason.
The report has naturally attracted statewide as well as national attention already. Governor Jay Inslee calling the report disturbing, saying there is no place in Washington for hate or violence, especially from those who have been elected by the people. So guys, a dramatic report here, and after months of waiting, only a few hours for people to start taking action against Representative Shea.
A lot to unpack, Casey, here, and I know you're going to be following this throughout the evening, and also you've updated KREM.com as well.
That's right as well, yeah.
So now that he's been removed from the caucus, what political power does Shea have?
Yeah, well, guys, he is still a state representative, so he can still propose legislation, he can still vote, but without the power of his party behind him, he'll have next to no influence. He'll have a nearly impossible time getting bills to even be reviewed by committees, much less passed by them. Now, if the House wanted to kick him out entirely, that would require a 2/3 vote of all the members. It's only ever happened once in the state's history. That was for a convicted rapist in the 1930s. Of course, the easiest way to get him out of the House would be for the people of Spokane Valley to vote for somebody else in 2020.
All right, Casey, thanks so much. House Republican and Democratic leadership have approved the release of the full report. We have the full report on our website, KREM.com. Switching to weather now, we saw overnight snow last night, but now things are shifting to rain and it's kind of just a soupy mess out there.
It just depends on your location. We're getting wet snow falling across some areas of the Spokane region and then rain in the downtown area. Let's go over here if we can. We'll show you some of the current totals or the totals we saw from the overnight snowfall. 2.5 inches of snow fell out at the Spokane International Airport. Green Acres picked up 2 inches of snow. I should show you that Felts Field picked up about 3 inches. Only an inch fell in Ritzville. We told you that was going to be, there would be lighter amounts of snowfall there. Colbert just under 3 inches, Leavenworth 4 inches, Dover 3 inches. This was as of this morning. Now with this next band of snow moving in these areas, many of these areas are even seeing more snow. It's snowing out at the airport, but it's a wet snow at 34 degrees. We were 33 degrees just in the 5 o'clock broadcast, and I'm expecting the overnight lows to actually go up rather than to decrease. So that's why it will eventually become an all-rain event. Widespread snow, as you can see, but look at here in the Spokane area. Just that green right here indicates where we're seeing rain and areas of heavy rain. But head west or north or south of Spokane and you're in the snow. Eventually, all of this rain from the south, though, is going to move up into the Spokane and many of the surrounding areas, except maybe some of those colder northern valleys. As I mentioned, the overnight low will warm up 36 degrees. Wind will develop in the overnight hours, 20 to 30 miles an hour. 48 the expected high tomorrow.
Wow.
A Chinook with wind gusts possible to 40 miles an hour. Look for a chance of a few showers over the weekend as well. Continued mild overnight lows staying well above freezing. Daytime highs on Saturday in the mid 40s. Tim, I'll check out the 10-day forecast for you coming up in just a few moments.
All right, looking forward to that, Tom. Thank you. Well, this is the second snowfall in 2 weeks. So how did road conditions fare this time around? KREM 2's Amanda Rowley checked in with the city of Spokane to find out how its response today compares to last week's.
Well, we confirmed with Spokane Police Department by about 11:30 today, officers responded to 26 crashes. Last week, that number was 34. So I went back to the city to find out if their snow response improved this time around. The Spokane Police Department temporarily closed down Walnut this morning due to slick conditions. Spokane City spokesperson Marlene Feist says crews quickly responded to that area, sanded it, and reopened the street.
Isn't that a major arterial that should have been treated to
I'm
prevent
sure it was
stuff?
treated. I'm sure it was treated. But you know, like we talked about, sometimes you pack things, cars sit on them, they cause some glazing, you can get a slick spot. This isn't, it isn't perfect.
After last week's snowfall, Feist explained de-icer needs traffic to churn the solution in order for it to work. But that method this week still does not seem to help clear the roads early enough for the morning commute.
Why should we have to rely on traffic to churn that up? Is there something that could be done pre-traffic, pre-early morning commute that can make conditions better?
So de-icer just works that way. That's how it works. Liquid de-icer requires movement for it to get that snow to melt. We pre-de-ice and that helps, but it really does require the cars and the traffic to get that in there and melt it. It's sort of the difference between having a piece of ice on your counter that's just melting or one that you chop up, right? What's going to melt faster?
But that didn't help the morning commute today, so is there something else that the city could look into doing to
We
make
are
it
always
better?
looking at things that can make it better, but I can tell you that's how de-icer works. And we can pre-treat. It doesn't mean that it necessarily means that there's no slick spots.
We were here at Chase Middle School after the last snowfall in our area, where several bus crashes were reported because of the slick road conditions. But today, the roads are much better. They're mostly just bare and wet. So I asked the city if this is a result of any changes they made from the last snowfall.
I know that we were out real early today looking at school routes, so they might have given that a little extra attention today. But, again, it really does depend on the conditions, and each snowstorm is different.
Now, Feist did point out a big change, though. The city held back night crews a little bit later and brought in morning snowplow crews a little bit earlier to cover any gaps in the snow removal. Reporting in Spokane South Hill, Amanda Rowley, KREM 2 News.
And it was a mess over in northern Idaho. Spinouts and heavy snow and semi-truck drivers putting on chains. Authorities reported crashes at 4th of July Pass and on Highway 95 south of Coeur d'Alene.
KREM 2's Taylor Vito spent the day in Kootenai County, and he shows us what drivers dealt with during the morning rush.
Yeah, as soon as you see that flashing little light, that means stop and put them on, or else, you know, your wallet's going to hurt more than your truck does.
By them, this trucker is referring to these heavy chains. They were necessary for semis heading over 4th of July Pass this morning. And here's why. This is at least one of the slide-offs at the pass that troopers were responding to. John Vargas is here all the way from Pennsylvania. He started his haul in Washington and then headed east.
It was clear over there for about an hour or two, and then all of a sudden, this happened. And then when I crossed over into Idaho, it got worse.
Some morning commuters felt the brunt of the early morning snow too and had to take it slow.
It's a little slushy, picks up under the wheels. I don't have a four-wheel drive, so I do have chains, but we got stuck. We slid back down the hill backwards.
This man is from Yakima and was in North Idaho doing window repair work. He then had to head towards Sandpoint.
It was a little sketchy there for a few minutes, but we stayed out of the ditch.
At least around Coeur d'Alene and Post Falls, conditions improved as the morning went on. Dispatchers told us, aside from the 4th of July slide-offs, authorities weren't responding to anything too out of the ordinary in town. But still, there was this crash on Highway 95 south of town, and other slide-offs were reported on Highway 2. Back at Wolf Lodge, more and more truckers kept stopping to put on their chains. For guys like Vargas, they couldn't afford to wait out the snow.
You know, I own the truck, so the load was paying good, and I couldn't say no.
In North Idaho, Taylor Vito, KREM 2 News.
Taylor, thank you. Governor Jay Inslee is focusing on transportation in the next stage of his climate fight. In his new proposals, he said he wants to adopt a clean fuel standard.
Yeah, and he also wants to require 25% of cars sold to be zero emission by 2025. Inslee is also pushing for a bill that requires rideshare companies to reduce their fleet's greenhouse gas emissions.
An earthquake rocked the Falls City area northeast of Issaquah this morning. The USGS says it was a magnitude 3.4. That makes 4 earthquakes in that area in less than 24 hours. So far, there haven't been any reports of injuries or damage. Well, if you're looking for a